You can absolutely change your life in 66 days, and it may be easier than you think. Hello, my friend. My name's Zach, and a few years ago, my life looked very differently than it does now. My life has completely changed, and it all started in 66 days. We're going to talk about in this video how to do that, and it's a very simple process, so let's get started. Number one, aim lower. If first you don't succeed, set lower goals. I'm tongue-in-cheek in it, but I think what happens a lot of times when we want an unrecognizable life, you're watching this because you want to change. And I assure you in this video, I'll show you how. But when we do that, we start out with like these, I'm going to change these 100 different things, and that's how I'm going to be unrecognizable. Here we go, let's go. And so we start out like a January 1st pledge. And I'm going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm going to be as rich as Russell Brunson. Like I'm going through the thing. I'm going to have the heart of Mother Teresa. All low goals. And then we get 2 weeks in and we're exhausted, burnt out, frustrated, and we give up. Here's how it changed my life. I flossed. That's it. So I wanted to change one thing, and it was flossing. And so that's what I did. And before you click off the video, hopefully you haven't already, now there's about 30 to 40 things, like 37 things that I do now differently, and I'll dive into it later in this video, that I did not do even 3 years ago. It's completely different, and therefore I've lost a ton of weight, my spiritual life's different, my relationships are different, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's changed. But you have to pick just one thing. Just one thing. And so for me, it was flossing. I know that might sound dumb, but I got tired of going to the dentist and them telling me that I needed to floss. And then I'd be like, yes, I'm going to floss. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I wouldn't. I'd start out doing that, and then I would just stop doing that, and then I'd start a new goal, and I'd stop doing that, and I'd start a new goal. But you have to pick one thing for 66 days. And here's why. It takes 66 days on average to form a habit. In fact, they polled people and did this study, and this is from Atomic Habits, that it took people between 18 to 254 days, depending on the habit. So when I said change your life in 66 days, 66 days is the average. And so for 66 days, in fact, I didn't have 66 days when I started this. I was like, for a year, this is all I'm doing. I'm just going to floss. And so I just started flossing. And I'd eat junk food. I would sleep in too late. I would do a bunch of things that I didn't want to do, but I was going to floss. And guess what I do not think about anymore at all? Flossing. See, when you only pick one thing, it's only 66 days. In the grand scheme of your life, that is a small amount of time. And one thing turns into two things, turns into three things, turns into 30-something things. The temptation can be to add things too early. And so, like I said, the average is 66 days. And you want to see, am I still thinking about it, or am I just doing it automatically? And you do not move on until you just do it automatically. And that way, when you add something, it's not taking mental energy. Because you and I only have so much willpower, and we run out. Have you noticed that? Like, if you are trying to eat clean, maybe you start out really strong in the day, and you eat great all day till 7 o'clock at night. And then the willpower runs out, and then you start stuffing your face and undo all of what you did. I did that for years. Once you've added one habit, and now you're not thinking about it at all, you're just doing it. So like flossing in the evening for me, you're going to add a second habit right around that. So I wanted to switch to another part of the day, not the evening, but in the morning, to show you how this will work. And talk about some other habits I do. So all of this is centered around one thing, coffee. I am a coffee addict. And no, I don't have to try to form the habit of drinking coffee every morning. I do that the moment I wake up. That is what I do, because that's what I want to do. I want to wake up and see the day. And so I formed one habit off of coffee in the morning. And that was the moment the coffee starts, I start reading the Bible. And for me, that was the habit I wanted to instill. And so after flossing, that was the next thing that I added. 66 days. And I don't know how many years now that it's been of reading the Bible every morning, but it's a habit. I don't think about it, I just do it. And once you have one habit linked to something, you can easily form the second habit right next to it, and that is called habit stacking. See, you're looking for something where there's an automatic thing that you do, is where it's the easiest to form a habit. So like flossing in the evening, why was that easy to form the habit? Well, because I brushed my teeth right then. And so I'm going to floss when I brush. And so you need the time to be consistent as well as the activity to be consistent. And so find something and form a habit. But once I had the Bible reading, the second habit that I formed right after that was prayer in quiet meditative prayer. And so I do the Pause app or Lectio 360. That is right after the Bible until that was habit. And once that's habit, then I read until that was habit. Every morning, those three things happen. And then reading turns into studying my Spanish. And so you can see how over time, all of a sudden, now I have a routine in the morning that is very consistent that I don't use willpower on. I just do. I do it because it's habit at this point. And it will completely change your life if you start to do that and have a little patience. See, I think when we want to change our life so bad, we lose patience. And we try to do too much at once. And usually it's around stopping something. And so if you're struggling with something, if you're like, I want to change the habit, I'm drinking alcohol, you can't form a habit around not doing something. But you can form a habit out of replacing it. And so here's a practical one from my life. I would come home off work and be stressed out. And my habit at that time was to have a beer and zone out on my phone to social media. Like, that's how I'm trying to check out, right? And I didn't like either one of those things. I didn't like that habit. And so now it's not that I'm not going to do those things that I don't do after work. It's that I exercise. That's the habit that I formed. And so when I get off work and come in the door, how I release the day is I work out. I get it out of my system. And so for you, where do you want to start? See, look at what's the easiest thing for you to do. Don't start at the hardest. Remember, I flossed. It might change my life. Maybe I'll get sick less. Maybe my teeth will be better. Well, they are. But maybe all these things will happen. But I started as an easy thing to do. You don't need to make it challenging. You don't need to try to form a habit of, I'm going to run a marathon every day. Start small. Something easy, something you want to do. Not something someone else wants for you. But what do you want? Is there a habit that makes all habits easier? See, for me, that was the Bible, right? That's why that was one of the quick habits I added in there. Because for me, that helps all other things fall in line. Because I base my life off of God's word. And so I want to be in that consistently. But for you, what is it? Pray about it. And in the end, just start. Because it's just 66 days. This is not a lifetime. And it'll take you somewhere you can never imagine. Hey, like I said, prayer and God's word is something that's super important. If you want to become recognizable, it's in His power and might. So watch this video right here if you want to add quiet time to your routine.